Hi there, and welcome back to my channel. Happy New Year. I hope you had a wonderful winter break and holiday season. Today, we're going to be starting off with something nice and easy. I'm going to be sharing with you 9 types of students you might have in your classroom and ways to meet the needs of all of them. Every year, you get a mix of learning styles, personalities, and with that comes strengths and challenges among them all. Sometimes you're juggling all of them at once. Chances are, as we go through this list, you're going to start picturing some of the students in your class and maybe even yourself as a kid. So, before we get started, I do want to mention that you can subscribe this channel. I am putting out one video each week of this year, 2026. A lot of these videos are going to be bite-sized videos. I'm super excited to be releasing these because they are very popular. And I'm also going to have these types of episodes where you see my face and I talk about a topic once per month. So you'll see 12 of these type of episodes this year and a variety of bite-sized social studies on government topics, history, geography, and so much more. So I'm super excited for you to tune in. I also have a podcast version if you ever want to listen in. These particular episodes are going to be on the podcast. You can also read the blog, thesouthernteach.com/blog, and you can see all of the different archive of articles related to teaching social studies and engaging your students. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be talking about 9 types of students that might be in your classroom. Again, you may or may not have a combination of multiple, so it's okay if you see more than one or all of the different types I mentioned in your classroom this year. You might have more of one than another. I'm going to be sharing a brief description and characteristics of each type of student and ways to best support them in the classroom. Number 1 is the perfectionist. This student wants everything to be just right. They care deeply about doing well, but sometimes the pressure makes them hesitant and makes them afraid to make mistakes. To support them, you can give clear directions, break tasks into smaller steps, and remind them about how learning isn't always perfect. It's about progress. Modeling mistakes out loud or even admitting that you made a mistake or there's a typo in a worksheet that you might have made can help students feel more comfortable, and it can be incredibly powerful. Next up is the people pleaser. This student constantly wants approval and reassurance. They're often very helpful, they're very kind, they're very eager. If they need to volunteer or you need to volunteer, they are going to be one of the first people to raise their hands and do whatever you want them to do. They can also struggle with confidence issues and fear of disappointing somebody that is close to them, whether it's a classmate or a friend or even their teacher. To support them, it's best to use positive reinforcement. And if you do have something to critique them or something you need to talk to them about that's important, give private feedback if possible rather than just shouting out in front of the whole class. And let them know that their value isn't always saying yes or trying to be as perfect as possible. Next up, we have the role model. This student likes recognition and takes pride at being successful. They often step up as leaders, but often really take it hard when they fail at something. They might be what you call a sore loser, or they just really don't like to lose at something when it comes to competition. To support them the best, make sure you're offering leadership opportunities while also giving room and allowing for mistakes. Let them know it's okay to make mistakes. Let them know that setbacks are a part of learning, even for strong students like themselves. Next up is the creative. This student thrives when they have the freedom to express, think outside the box, or show their learning in unique ways. They might struggle with rigid or repetitive tasks, like maybe you have a fact fluency thing you have to do every time, something that's kind of very repetitive, rote memorization. They are not about that. To support them, make sure you're incorporating choice boards, open-ended projects, and also creative response options. When students are showing their learning in different ways, this is where the creatives really shine. Number 5 is the thinker. The thinker loves ideas, questions, and deep thinking. They might work quietly and prefer to work independently rather than in pairs or in a group, and they enjoy exploring topics beyond what is required of them. To support them, make sure you're giving them space and opportunities for them to explore by themselves, give them the opportunity to ask thoughtful questions, as well as sharing their thinking. Extension activities and inquiry-based learning really work well here. Next up is the skeptic. This student questions everything, and sometimes that can come across as challenging or argumentative. But really, this is how they're engaging with the material. To help them, make sure you're encouraging respectful questioning, not calling any teacher or other student out because of their opinions, teaching them also how to support their own opinions with solid evidence that is credible. These students thrive in debates and discussions and analysis activities. Next up is the life of the party. This student is energetic and social. They love group projects. Anytime where they get to talk and work with other people, it doesn't matter who it is in the class, that is going to be their jam. They often bring great energy to the classroom, but it could also be a distraction for themselves and others if that energy isn't adequately addressed or directed in the right place. To support them, make sure you're encouraging and channeling their enthusiasm with leadership roles, presentations, group discussions, allowing them to work in different places around the room, and switching it up with working independently with also working in groups. Clear expectations and structured movement is a way to keep them engaged. All right, the second to last is the go-getter. The student is confident, motivated. This student is confident, motivated, and love independence. They love to take charge and gladly love challenges. They also might resist strict control. If you may be a strict teacher or have a lot of rules, they may not react well to that. To support them, make sure you're offering choice within the structure that you might have. Clear boundaries paired with autonomy help these students stay motivated and successful, and they're less likely to be argumentative and fighting back. Finally, the last type of student you might have in your classroom is the dreamer. These students are often quiet, observant, and reflective. They may take longer to participate. They may be reluctant to participate in group discussions where hands are popping up and everybody's talking. They will warm up in due time, maybe towards the end of the year, maybe not at all. Maybe once in a blue moon, they might share their thoughts, and that is okay. Once they do feel comfortable, even if it's just talking to you, they do always have some insightful things to say. To support them, make sure you offer low pressure opportunities to share ideas, whether that's one-on-one with you or maybe one of their friends that they do talk to. Another thing to think about is using partner talk, building routines that help them feel safe and confident. So let's wrap up and review the 9 different types of students. Thinking back on what I just said, which one do you notice the most in your class? Just this year. Let's think about just this year. Can you think of, do you have a lot of dreamers? Do you have a lot of skeptics? Do you have a lot of life of the parties that are all just really loving to be enthusiastic and share and talk and want to be in a group all the time? Every year is different. I've had, even in the same year, I've had a morning block that was more quiet, more observant, more independent, and my other block would be more talkative, more achievers. So just think about what types of students might be in your class based on the 9 I mentioned here. And even go back in time, think about as a kid, what were you? Were you an achiever? Were you a perfectionist? I say I was a mix of a little bit of the dreamer, but also the achiever and the perfectionist. I could see myself in a few of those descriptions. I didn't always like to be in a group. For the most part, I would rather work by myself, but I also wanted to please my teacher. I was a teacher's helper, always staying after school to clean the chalkboards. We did have chalkboards back then. I am old enough to remember that. But that's just kind of something that I like to think back on. And I try, as a teacher, I try to take into account that not everything I teach and not every activity I do is going to fit with the personalities and the needs of every single student. So I really think mixing it up and supporting students where you see fit is so important. That's why it's so important to really understand and know your students as soon as the first few days of school. And even if you've got a new student, make sure you're taking the time to get to know them. Something else to take in mind is that most students don't fit neatly into one category for every single subject. They might be a perfectionist in math, they might be a creative in writing, and they might be a skeptic in social studies. It could just depend on what they're interested in and the topic and the subject in general. Understanding these student types is a way to help plan your lessons, group students thoughtfully, and create a classroom environment where every student feels supported. Teaching isn't about changing who students are. It is about meeting them where they are and helping them grow. I wanted to start off this episode at the beginning of the year just as a refresher and a reminder to make sure that you're modifying and implementing a variety of strategies to make sure you're meeting your students where they are. Not all students will fit into one type of box. Not all students can work independently every single time of the day. And it's just important to incorporate not only independent activities, but group activities, independent activities that might require creative thinking, choice boards, something where it is very structured. It requires a lot of fast fact fluency, something like that. Whatever it is, make sure you're varying the activities, varying the modality, and making sure you are meeting students where they're at. I know it can be stressful, especially because there's so many things that you have to keep in mind in a class and with your students, but it can be possible. It can be easy to do. If you're looking for an activity where students are discovering their personality types, based on the 9 types that I shared with you today, I highly encourage you to check out my best-selling Enneagram test for big kids, grades 4 through 6. I also have Enneagram for primary, so it's perfect for grades 1 through 3. I'll make sure to link that in the description to see if you're interested in either of those. But I have a variety of activities that are based off of the Enneagram. I've got Enneagram choice boards that you can use for any subject. I've got a teacher guide that goes into more depth with the 9 types I share with you here. So I think that I wanted to do this episode in the beginning of the year to really kind of think about how you can meet your students and not do every single activity and vary it for every single type of student in your class, but it just at least giving yourself and your students the awareness that they are different in personality, in strengths and challenges, and that is okay. And just rolling with that through the spring semester and beyond, and making sure you can help them. Hopefully you found this episode insightful and helpful, and I look forward to talking to you next time. Have a great rest of your day.